This is what the Russian world, or the Russian peace, as they called it, looks like.
My name's Jason Parkinson. I'm a freelance video journalist. I've been covering the war in Ukraine since February this year, particularly focusing on the south in Mykolaiv and the Kherson front line. I've been a video journalist for about 20 years. I've covered lots of different things, including the Arab Spring, uprisings in Turkey. This morning, myself, my fixer, Andriy, and my driver, Vlad, we went out about 9 o'clock this morning. So we ended up down at the park, which is on the kind of going down to the riverfront on next to the library, where I believe is the Freedom Statue. My fixer, Andriy, said he wasn't feeling comfortable with us going down there, so I took his advice and we started to walk back. And as we started to walk back, we heard these three different sounds of shelling. It was very different to anything both of us looked at each other, so we both knew something was very different. We heard a boom, boom, boom. It was a very orchestrated, organised sound of three things coming out, and as soon as we heard that, we heard rockets flying over our heads, very, very low above us. We couldn't see anything because the cloud level was so low. But as soon as we heard that, even my fixer said, "Where are you going?" talking to the missiles. And as soon as he said that, we heard these explosions not far away from us. So we made our way very quickly back to our vehicle. But by the time we made it to our vehicle, there was another succession of these sounds of something being fired off in very quick succession, and I think it was probably about another 8 or 10 that we heard on the second round, and they came flying over us very low, and we thought they were hitting the park opposite us, but it turns out they were actually hitting the housing estate just behind the park, which was very close to us. I've been under lots of artillery before. But generally, every time I've had to face something like this before, I've had some cover. Either buildings or something that you can at least kind of work some cover behind. At this point, we were just wide out in the open. There was us, our vehicle, and a statue next to us, and that was all that we had for cover. So that was really quite worrying. We decided to move very quickly from the area, get back into the vehicle, move away and head straight into the nearest housing estate to give ourselves some cover from the south-facing fire. And what that actually did was that led us into the very area that had just been struck. So we very quickly came across a street where there was lots of debris in the street. There was telephone cables hanging down from all the poles into the street, which obviously made it impassable because of like any kind of electrification that was still going on. So we stopped and we got out, and there was people coming out the houses at that point. And I think this is the first time I've seen it in such the point where missiles have just landed and then people actually emerge from their homes. This is the first time I've really seen that, and the kind of look of just horror and shock on people's faces. I mean, it's almost like people were walking around in a daze because they didn't, they were just so traumatized by what just happened to them. And they're coming out and they're seeing that the front of their homes are destroyed. The front of the homes are burned, they're damaged. There's shrapnel damage to the places. There's glass everywhere. Windows have been blown out. But from that point, I spotted in the distance, further down the street, that there was some military gathering and then some ambulances arriving. So we moved several hundred meters down the road to see what was going on there, and immediately the military and the paramedics that were there as well said, "You can't film this. And it was a very agitated moment for those people. And we weren't too sure why, because I've been in situations before where we've been allowed to film dead bodies because people need to see those things. But this was different, and we didn't understand why at the time. But next to me was pointed out by Andrei, my fixer. There was all this blood on the floor next to a shopping bag. And so I started filming some scenes of that. And then I realized that from that mound of blood, there was kind of a trail that kind of dragged off and went to this body that was on the floor that was covered up. I think, as far as I know from the information we have, that was the old man, the 70-year-old man, who was killed in the attack. One of two. The other person who was killed was I believe it's a 31-year-old medic, and she was killed because she was outside the medical centre. All the missiles headed into this residential area. Everything hit residential targets. Where the deaths have occurred is a humanitarian aid centre. These two people have been killed. And I mean, one of the things that really shocks me more than anything else is I can deal with hearing the missiles flying overhead. I can deal with the explosions and things like that. But when it comes to the aftermath at the end, and you realise that there's somebody like this 70-year-old man who's just gone out of his house that morning, probably just gone to go and get some food, or maybe would have been heading to the medical centre to get assistance. And 1 minute they're there and they're just doing what they're doing for that day, and then the next second these Russian missiles come in, they hit the ground, they kill these people, not always instantly, as it seems with this old man, because he seems to have dragged himself about 10 metres before he actually collapsed. That's what really gets to me more than anything else, is these people are, like, in the worst of situations, are just trying to get on and do what they have to do on a day-to-day basis just to struggle on, and then something like this happens and their life is wiped out in a second. And for what?